On today's episode of the Deerskin Diary, we're going to be talking about America's tea, the Yaupon Holly plant. Okay. The Yaupon Holly plant is native to Georgia, and it's one of the only plants in the United States that has caffeine. And southeastern tribes, including the Muskogee, used to make a really dark version of this tea, and they'd add other things like snake root, and they would make themselves throw up during their rituals, which gave it its Latin name, Ilex vomitoria.
Gross.
Pretty gross. And there was this big famous company called the East India Tea Company, and they traveled all over the world selling tea and spices to everybody. But they decided to turn their back on Yaupon Holly in order to make teas from Asia more popular. But not everybody was enamored with that idea. A famous naturalist who traveled all throughout not too far from here, his name was John Bartram, and he said about Yaupon Holly, it was very wholesome, far more salutary than any from ye East Indies. It's pity it was not more used. And a famous Indian trader who lived with most of the southeastern tribes at one time said that it's well tasted and very agreeable to those who accustom themselves to use it. Instead of having any noxious quality, according to what many have experienced of the East India insipid and costly tea, it's friendly to the human system and it perfectly cures a tremor in the nerves.
I like that story.
This is a good story. What do you think?
The color is clear like water, but it actually tastes like regular tea.
It does taste like regular tea. I think it tastes like maybe like a darker green tea. It's not quite grassy, but it's not quite earthy or bitter like a black tea. It's kind of somewhere in between. I think it tastes really good. Now, as a plant, Yaupon Holly is really easy to find because it's used in landscaping throughout the country, though it is native to the American South and northern Mexico. To make the tea, it's pretty simple. You simply gather the green leaves and even some of the smaller stems. You can chop them up, put them in an oven, bake them at a low temperature until they're about that color. It's more roasting than baking, I guess. And that's all it is. That's all there is to it. You just use that to make the tea, and that's exactly what we've done here. You can also purchase it. There are several places throughout the country now that commercially produce and sell Yaupon Holly, both in tea bags and loose like this. I prefer to get mine, and this is not a paid advertisement, but from the Oliver Pluff and Company out of Charleston. They have a number of colonial style teas they offer for sale. And thanks for coming along with us today, folks, on this episode of the Deerskin Diary. Please click like and subscribe if you like these videos. It tells us what you're interested in and helps encourage us to make more. Thanks for sharing history with us. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming along with us in this episode of the Deerskin Diary today. Now loosen up the lips so you can talk better on the camera.